Agenda.
Just slowing. Do you?
Present things.
Yeah,
But I think
we're just sorting the slides out.
slides.
Yeah, and present.
Just for those in teams, we just sorted out the slides that Phil's going to.
What's showing up there? Your. Yeah.
Even the meeting.
No, I'll try.
I'll tell you what, Phil, if it helps, I can jump to the second part of the agenda and then would that be, then I can come to you after that. Meantime, if you want to try and get slides up, just carry on trying to get something next. Right, Andrea, I don't know, I'm just going to come to you at the moment just to allow. I think there's a new technology going here at the moment, is it? That's part of the issue. Modernised, so we're kind of got new technology in the movie at the moment, and that's causing us some challenges this morning. But Andrea, okay, I might just come to you as point number 4. Just obviously, the last meeting we were. You gave an input about the issues of the hubs, and I suppose it was just an opportunity to come back and give us a further update. I know you've sent a further email out since then, and I suppose I'll just hand over to yourself, Andrea. I think it's just really the purpose of this primarily, unless you want to give us any further purposes you can do, Andrea, is just make sure that we're all aware of the situation, so that there's a cohesion about what we're aware of and what we can do to support the situation way forward for the whole of Sutherland, I suppose. So, Andrea, I'll hand over to yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we did send out an update following the last meeting, and there has been progress since then, which is good to report. David Park agreed to meet with all the hubs to start progress, and that meeting took place on the 21st of May at Brora Hub. The meeting did give a good opportunity for everybody to for the hubs to sort of share the challenges and the difficulties that there had been, and David was really receptive and sort of taking everything on board. Obviously, you know, he couldn't make commitments at that meeting, but committed to taking the matter on personally, and to progressing the individual meetings that needed to take place with each hub to look at their financial position. David did apologise for the lack of communication and progress to date, and did say that he would stay involved until we reach some resolution. Following that, you may have seen that the hubs had a Community Voices Day, which took place on the 27th of May. And this was based on the fact that we feel that Sutherland communities don't have a strong voice because of how spread out they are, and are often their sort of concerns around things that matter to them, such as community care, are missed. So we organised a Community Voices Day for the 27th of May. At 12 noon on that day, the communities gathered outside of each hub. It was a great day. The hubs felt it really boosted sort of their morale, because it's been 2 years of struggle, and the communities did come out, did support the hubs, not just giving support to the services that the hubs deliver, but sharing their concerns about the position of care in the community across Sutherland. So that was, you know, it helped us, because it helped us to get the backing of the communities. The individual meetings, as promised by David, have now started to take place. The first one was across in South Caithness in Dunbeath, and that was on the 3rd of June. There are meetings booked in for the 10th of June across with Community Care Aston in Lochinver and Cayley House in Kinloch Burvey. And there is a meeting for Brora Hub on the 13th of June. that would just then leave the Bradbury Centre and the Kyle Centre in Tong to have those individual meetings. The purpose of the individual meetings is to look at the financial position that the hubs are in now, and to look at financial projections going forward, and to begin the discussions about the services that are being commissioned and how they will be taken forward. The feedback from Dunbeath was again quite positive. Those meetings were held by Michelle Johnson, service lead manager. I'm sorry, I'm not quite 100% sure of her title. Christian Nicholson as area manager, and Jacqueline Patterson as contracts officer. Dunbeath felt it was very positive. They felt that the position of the hubs was acknowledged. There was a time frame given now for next steps, which is again very positive for us because it's something we've been struggling to get. They said that they will complete all these individual meetings by the end of June. They will spend some time evaluating their findings, and that they're hoping to get the core funding offer and the basis for the new service level agreements out at the end of July, beginning of August. We've been told that the final decisions will be made by the third sector board. So on the whole, we do feel that we've definitely now started to move forward, whereas last time we spoke, we were very much at a 2-year standstill. We do feel that there are still some obstacles to overcome, but at least finally we've got what we've been asking for, which is we are round the table. There is also another meeting, another community meeting that I'd like to just share with you, which is an open community meeting in Tong on the 21st of this month. I didn't put that in my notes. I'm sure it's Monday Monday the 23rd of June. That'll be at the Kyle Centre in Tong. Invites have been sent to NHS Highland and Highland Council, and John Sturrock KC has agreed to chair that meeting. At this meeting, the community have invited NHS and Highland Council to come and listen to the community concerns relating to care at home and provision of care and support in the community, the lack of progress with the North Coast service redesign, and the funding and sustainability of the hubs. Again, we're quite optimistic that this meeting again will keep dialogue open. What we're all being really clear on, and we did share it with David at the meeting in Brora Hub, that actually what we need is real change. It's often quite easy to just put something in place to prop services up, to just get past, an immediate crisis. But so that we don't find ourselves back in this position in 12 months, we need a clear picture of what community care and support should look like in Sutherland, and what the future of those services should be, and how we deliver that collectively. We said to David that very much we feel that there needs to be a strategic review of the position for care and support in Sutherland as it is now, and from this to build a plan going forward. So I am pleased to join you and say that yes, there has definitely been some positive steps.
Okay. Thanks, Andy. And see, just before I open up to questions for anybody else, see going forward, that's really good news in the whole concerning part where we were 3 months ago. Is there any kind of, aside from people being aware of it, is there any kind of messages that you'd want everyone here to be aware of, and any support they can give going forward? Because I suppose that's the key thing.
Yes, very much. The hubs, we believe that the hubs are strategically well placed to provide good coverage for care and support across Sutherland. And what we're asking is that the hubs are now considered as part of the future plan. And that this is not a case of we just, as I say, find a short-term measure. The hubs have come forward saying that there is, and they believe there is so much more that they could do to provide additional care and support and to underpin services such as care at home. So that is what we're asking, that this is, you know, the beginning of real change. There is some other little pieces of work going on in the background where we're actually now looking at other communities that have stepped up to provide community-led care and support, and how they're doing that in an integrated and joined up way. We're only just starting to scratch the surface on that, so we would very much like to ask for support that this actually becomes a more serious piece of work that makes a real change in Sutherland.
Excellent, and I think so. It's important to acknowledge the work yourself and Deirdre have done, and others in the background over the last 3 months. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, and I suppose just more widely, and this will become probably maybe a feature of actually some of what we talk about today. To some extent, certainly, is that when we go through the partnership meeting today, and actually what we look at, actually some of what's happening across Sutherland and some of the challenges Sutherland face, is actually really because some of the people in this room and some of the people on teams that actually some of these things are actually being sustained, supported, and actually developed. And that's seriously important to say that. So thanks, Andrea, for that.
Thank you.
Is there anybody that wants to bring up Jim?
Yeah, thanks. Andrea, it's interesting from my point of view to see that the introduction of a new face, David Park, onto the stage has seemed to allow things to progress very quickly, which is good to know. I had a chat with Derek Down in this room on Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday, I can't remember where on the street, and about this particular matter. And he had explained to me his vision, which is of a hubs having a core funding and extension. Core and extension was the phrase he used. The core to provide the issues in a normal manner, but the extension to come from having clients signed on to STS and accessing funding that way. Now, I don't understand the full implications of that. Is that something which sounds reasonable to you?
We have over the time had those discussions about having core and sort of enhanced sort of service provision around that core. That's a model that we're very comfortable, and all the hubs are very comfortable, because basically it is how they work. SDS, self-directed support, is an interesting one, and the hubs have said, you know, they can see their fit as to how they would support someone who took self-directed support as payments to themselves, and then be there as a choice of service that they would like to purchase and like to see as support. And I think there are other things we can have in the community to make that work. But I think the wider picture here is that we all really understand what self-directed support is, and it's very often just portrayed as this one thing, which is where people are allocated their own budget so that they can you know, directly choose what services they want to buy. But self-directed support has 4 elements to it, of which the third one is people can choose to ask social care, whether that's NHS or council delivered, that actually they take responsibility for their delivery of care. And for any council or NHS to do that, there has to be a core provision of services. Otherwise, you're in a position where social care itself cannot meet the third option within self-directed support. So yes, the hubs are very keen to look at that model. We definitely see it as a way forward, but I think it's really important that everyone realises that there is more than one option in self-directed support, so that we have the full picture for communities.
Thank you.
Andrea. Anybody else? No, okay, thanks Andy for that, and I think I was just say you're welcome back at any of the future meetings, so just keep us updated in terms of how things develop, Andy. I think it's important that, and as much as you're doing the work that you're doing, that
Thank
the
you.
wider partnership as a whole supports you where we can, so thank you, thanks for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, right, I think I'm going to quickly carry on moving through this because we've got a lot to get through the day. I suspect I'm going to run into difficulties with the agenda at some point time wise, but Phil, you want to set up and running now? Right. Phil, I'll have to-
Yeah, you happy with us just doing it from here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, does anyone know Fiona?
Morning, I'm Fiona Richardson. I'm Community Development Manager for North and East, so Caithness, Sutherland and East Ross and work with Phil.
So we're going to do a double act tonight. So Fiona's going to start.
Okay, so thanks everybody. Today we are delighted to be talking about the Sutherland Area Place Plan. So we're just going to spend about 15-20 minutes, no more than that, for just a bit of an overview of the plan, but more importantly, start a bit of discussion with the partnership. So we're just going to start with a quick recap about what's led us to today and the plan. And then Phil will take us through kind of the priorities that have emerged through our review and our community engagement, and then we can have a bit of a chat about where this sits with the partnership. So just as in terms of a quick recap, back in November 21, both the Highland Council and the Community Planning Partnership Board agreed the Highland Place-Based Framework. So that, simply put, is about taking a place-based approach, which I'm sure everybody around the table and online will recognise that that's what we do in our business. So that's about working collaboratively, knowing and understanding the needs of the communities, and taking that forward into sort of shared priorities, and then using that to inform our service design and delivery. So it's about that sort of targeting resources needed towards the greatest kind of need. So the terms of the plan, which is now finished, in the first phase of it, in terms of we've got a set of priorities, and we'll go into detail about how we turn those into kind of actions later. But the scope of the Southern Plan is that it's a shared plan. It's not a council plan, it's not one individual organisation plan, it's very much a shared plan. So it will involve input from all sectors, public, private and community. So it's strategic. It doesn't sort of aim to duplicate where there's existing plans, because we know that there's a suite of existing plans both at community level and thematic plans for Sutherland. So this is aimed as sort of like an overview and sort of what do all these plans tell us about Sutherland. So it's this is sort of strategic priorities. We hope that this plan, as well as being used to inform decisions around budget making, service design, etc., but it's a useful document for others when looking to marry up their funding applications to priorities. And it'll have things within it that we can achieve perhaps in the very short time, but there's a lot within it that's going to take a bit of time, effort and collaboration to realise. So just reiterating that this is a plan for everyone in terms of shaping it, delivering it, reviewing it, reporting back to communities. And some of this in here will need our support from Scottish Government and national agencies on some priorities. So just quickly about how the plan was developed. So I just want to note here a huge thanks to Scott, Miranda, David, through their support at that desktop review, because what was really important with all of the plans, and just to, I should have said, just in that recap there with the commitment, that with the place-based framework, that there's actually an area plan per council committee geography. So that was the commitment, that each area would have a plan. So in the main, most of those are in line with the community partnership geographies too, which is helpful. So, but with all of those plans, we weren't starting with a blank sheet of paper. So there was that desktop review, gathering up what we knew, what we think we know about the county. And from that, we were able to then go out to the community with some themes and some information to set the context about what we think we know about Sutherland. And from that we were able to sort of get some feedback. So we had 5 drop-ins across the county, and that was added to with, there was an online place standard, which actually was last autumn. And then there was also the opportunity for people to comment through an ideas board using these themes. So I'm going to hand over to Phil. Phil's going to take us through what the heard.
Yep, thank you. So this is the overall themes. To summarise, there is some more detail behind it. Don't think you'd be surprised by any of this. Depopulation, ageing population, something we're talking about all the time. Housing, income, transport, connectivity, health and well-being. We've just been talking about that. Impact of climate change, tourism, community resilience. So I don't think there's any surprises there. We go into more detail. I'm not going to read these out, don't worry. But we basically divided the plan into people, place, and prosperity. It reflects the Highland Community Planning Partnership approach to, to putting things into themes. So you can see, again, no surprises there. Moving on to place, infrastructure, housing, community facilities and services. This is all stuff that we've all talked about for years, really. Okay. Young people's priorities, that's something that we perhaps don't discuss as much. You can see there's quite a lot of demand for activities, sports, outdoor learning, things that perhaps we used to take a bit for granted and have gradually been taken away from young people. So we've got to perhaps keep our eyes on that as well. So in terms of delivery partners, as Fiona has said, this is a plan that is meant to be shared by a number of people, and hopefully people will find it relevant. So the obvious ones are the people in this room, the partners, the development trusts and the communities. But there's some other things that I think we probably also need to consider. We do have the Highland Community Planning Partnership has a commitment to do a locality or community planning partnership plan. And I know that's something that Scott and Miranda were working on. And I think Gail is going to come and do some work with the partnership around that. That's going to be much more focused on inequalities. But I think that, we have to have a discussion about that, and there's room for the partnership to influence how that goes. It may be that the locality plan becomes part of the area place plan, or it might set a standalone document. I think there's room for flexibility, and that really the point is that the partnership should lead how that's shaped. So that'll be quite interesting how that discussion goes. Each partnership is going to be slightly different. So for instance, in Easter Ross, the idea will be that the local planning partnership, sorry, the area plan will be also the locality plan. But we'll see how that goes. As I said, there's discussion to go around that. Then Northwest 2040. Sorry. Northwest 20. Northwest 2045, Northwest 2045 standalone partnership, probably did one of the earliest place plans in Highland, was recognised by Area Committee and by this partnership for the work that it's doing in the Northwest, the vision document that was put together, and we referred to that when we put together the stuff for the area place plan. It continues to report into and liaise with this partnership, and Boyd will be doing a quick update on where we are with that a little bit later on in the meeting. But Northwest 2045 is a potential to be a really important delivery partner. It has accessed funds from Scottish Government and from the council, and at the moment it's doing some really pioneering work on childcare, bringing that forward, as well as the work that Boyd's doing on housing in the rural Northwest and the land use partnership. So that's an important delivery arm of the area place plan, and we have to make sure that we don't lose the things that other people are doing for the county. And that's where we come on to these other ones, the Green Freeport, the Highland Investment Plan. Green Freeport, so that's primarily in Murray Firth, but it has the potential to impact certainly in South East Sutherland, if not across the whole county. And in some ways that's up to us to try and maximise the opportunities for that to happen. Those are easy words. It's difficult to make it happen. I appreciate that. But as long as we have that in the front of our minds, then we can start to try and make the most of those opportunities. Similarly, Highland Investment Plan, the current focus is on Dingwall and on Caithness, and particularly on Thurso and Thurso High School. Now, Thurso High School doesn't really impinge on Sutherland, but there will be one or two students that do go there. But the housing investment plan is going to be moving on to Sutherland. I think I understand Golspie is next on the list. So that's another thing that may be delivering some of the things that have been identified in the area place plan. Focus North, World Heritage Site, I'm not going to, don't need to go through all of these, but both of those things have the opportunity to present or to present opportunities for people in the North to get jobs and to create more sustainable communities. The last one on the list, community wealth building, is something some of us were involved in a workshop quite recently about the social value charter and about how the council can use, in fact, the public sector can use its procurement strength to ensure that when we buy a large contract from somebody, there's some benefit that comes back to the community. And into that fits community benefit from wind farms, where we have a voluntary social value charter. It's not perfect, but it actually creates an opportunity for us to have a discussion, and for communities to have a discussion with developers about the kind of support they're going to give to communities. And there are people in this room who've done a lot of work around this already, particularly around the opportunities for shared ownership, which has proved to be tricky. But these are the kind of things that we can tackle, and the community wealth building social value charter is another tool that we can use to try and move that agenda. Okay. So next steps. The area place plan draft was approved by committee on last Monday, on the 2nd of June, and we circulated a copy of that draft with the with the agenda. So thank you, Scott, for doing that yesterday. It needs to be designed and published properly. So in some ways, this is a bit of a soft launch, just to kind of say it's there, folks. This is what we plan to be working at. We now need to take what is essentially a set of priorities and interests that people have raised with us into some kind of action plan. And I think that's going to take a fair bit of work with council services, with partners, and hopefully with Sutherland Community Partnership as well. And I think we need to consider how we do that. And although I haven't spoken with Carl yet, I think maybe some kind of opportunity to workshop or a meeting to take that forward and understand if and how Sutherland Community Partnership partners would like to participate. That's probably the place to do it. I've already kind of talked about us understanding what's currently happening, and I think what we need to remember is that the plan is essentially what Sutherland people have told us they would like to see done. So it isn't really about who owns what and did what. It's just about being able to say, as a collective of people who serve the Sutherland community, these are the things that are being done to address those priorities that you identified. So finally, we do have some, we put questions just to see if any, just some discussion points. I know there's not much time, but we're happy to open to the floor, Callum, with your comments, if any of those discussion points prompt any comments from anybody. Thank you.
So I suppose as Phil was saying there, so I suppose it's just, has anybody got any comments to make, any questions, any observations to make? Very important to say there is an opportunity to actually feed into that and influence its development, I suppose, if you want to do that going forward. Has anybody got anything they want to add?
I would just say that the plan was circulated just yesterday. So, you know, we appreciate that not everybody was sitting reading the plan last night over dinner, but so we can take any sort of feedback or questions, you know, once you've had a chance to have a look at it.
I was reading it to my daughter's bedtime last night.
I sleep just like that.
No. Yeah. I suppose one of the questions I have, I suppose, and one of the observations I would have is, and I don't know the answer to this, but so, you know, across Sutherland, we've got development trusts, we've got the partnership, we've got people doing loads of different bits of good work, and I suppose it's, I mean, it's a question without an answer, I suppose it's how we best kind of make sure that everyone's working to something that's close to the idea of the plan, I suppose, to ensure that there's not a doubling of work going on in different places and so on. So that's one of the key things, because that's one of the observations I've had ever since coming in here, is that there's so many people doing so much good work that actually there can be duplication, there can be unnecessary work when somebody else is doing some of this work. So that's one of the things that I think would be really useful for the Sutherland as a whole if there was something right about that. But I don't know how that. It's an observation more than actually anything particularly helpful, I suppose.
I think we have to see how the action plan process works out. You know, if we're able to tie actions and people doing them to those priorities in the plan, then I think that will help us prevent that kind of duplication work going on. But it is going to be tricky. It is going to be messy, and I think we have to say that we have to achieve as much as we can, and we have to be realistic that there are some really quite large demands that not demands, but priorities that people identify. They're not going to be easily fixed. There are others that are going to be perhaps a little bit more easily fixed. And I think we have to take a realistic approach, identify the things we're going to be able to do quickly, and make sure that we understand who is doing what, so we don't have to avoid that duplication.
Can I just add to that just very quickly? So we do have an opportunity in Sutherland because of like the community anchor network, because of SR, you know, because there's existing structures there to work with. And when we took the plan to committee on Monday, that, you know, what we asked members, the recommendations were to adopt the plan to use as a tool to inform, a tool along with other tools to inform decision making, but also to promote the plan, you know, in other settings. So there is a bit of a job to do, like we're doing today, to go to these other, you know, sort of networks and groupings and just to promote it, but also to do that bit about, well, you know, where can you contribute, or where are, you know, what's currently happening, or what are the opportunities to deliver against this. So there's a bit of a coordination role. And I've just noticed that Yvonne's put, you know, an example of this, the Sutherland Youth Forum are meeting in August. Yvonne's just put that in the chat there.
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity there to work with the Sutherland Youth Forum about, you know, and it's really important that this plan is live. We don't want to be changing it every 6 months, but we've got to have that ongoing sort of feedback and communication with the community. And there's an example of how we can do it with young people through the forum.
I can't actually do this on the phones.
Well, it's okay. No, it's just, I'm sorry, I don't know many people in here, so I'm Angelis from the Whole Family Wellbeing. So you'll all probably be aware of Hayley, so I'm Hayley's taking over from Hayley. But it was just, we did a local partnership network working with Ross, and we had Lynn there as well, which was really good actually. So just to get ahead of the game, is there anything in the plan? Sorry, I apologise, I've not read it yet. That specifically you think would be useful that relates to SWAT children, young people and families that we should be bringing to the local partnership network group to help input on the
Yes,
priorities. Yeah, so maybe have a catch up with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Before that's the end of the month. Be good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think as Phil was saying, it came to the committee Monday, and I think we were all delighted with the structure of the plan. I think my observation at the time was that it's reinforcing a lot of the issues that we know we have across the county. There are these things that we've been talking about a lot of them for a number of years now. But we need to keep on talking about them. We need to keep the focus on all of the issues we know affect communities across the county, and I think that's really, really important. I think we need to be learning as well. We need to have some kind of structure in place so we're learning from the likes of the North West 24/5, the Asset Development Trust, the Transport for Tongue, all these people are doing great things across the county, and how we pull all that together into actions that can be translated for the whole county and not just the pockets of where things are being done well. Where development trusts are working, they're generally speaking, they're working pretty well and doing a really good job, but they're working for their own small area of the communities, but we need to be sharing that information. And Scan, I think, does that. So we know that's pulled together. So we need to coordinate that whole thing into one thing. And we also need working with the Chamber of Commerce and see what they can do to help us to promote Sutherland generally and generally improve the community wealth building and the whole aspect of it, so the whole county can benefit. Big problem Sutherland has is it's a massive area with so many different types of communities. You've got fairly big communities in Dornoch and Goldsby and Brora, and you've got really tiny communities in basically Kinlochbervie and Scowey and Durness. So how do we actually make sure that everybody benefits from this plan and not just pockets? So I think it's got a county-wide progression so that everybody has a chance to thrive in terms of economic benefit and how we reverse that depopulation issue. That's, to me, is a huge thing we need to be doing. So yeah, I certainly endorse the plan. I think it's great, but it's a start. And that's where the action needs to drive things forward.
And I think just as you're saying there, Richard, I mean, in some senses, some of the themes fit the whole of Sutherland, but then there's other senses that actually, so for example, depopulation, if you look at the southeast of the county, it's not quite as, I don't actually it's depopulated at all, it's actually,
Not about it.
yeah, and then, you know, northwest is, sorry, I'll come on to you, sorry, Jim.
No, I'm just going to say that as we go to the action plan phase, then we must have a strong immediate emphasis on jobs and housing, because although we see relatively depopulation has been a feature from north and west rural areas, at the moment we have the situation in Penrith where the school roll has just evaporated almost within a year, and I find out as I walk my Northern Times this morning that Moher Primary School is dropping half a teacher. And I mean, it's shocking that as councillors, we're not briefed on this in advance, and that we're finding out what's happening from the front page of the local press. But that's another angle again. So my emphasis on jobs and housing, let's say that we're depopulation is infiltrating into the whole of the county, and I think we really have to address that with urgency.
Yeah. If I could just respond to that, you know, I think what Jim is saying is it's not only about the depopulation, it's about the ageing population. And that's really having an impact on some of the services, particularly around young people and for children. And I think I might be wrong, but I believe that the only school that's really kind of thriving or growing, or at least remaining stable, is Dornoch. And that's taken the building about 300 houses in that village for that to keep delivering that number of children into the system. And it's really difficult to maintain that. And we're seeing that across the county, just the population ages, the children just disappeared. If you look at, there was in the Northern Times probably about 2 or 3 months ago, there was a picture of a Durness primary school trip from 2000. It was about 25, 30 kids there that were going to do something. I don't know how many children are at school now. It's 6. Is it 6? It was 2 at one point. So that's
one.
That sounds like progress. So concrete examples of what's going on with the population. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wondered if the plan is open-ended and adaptable, or has it got a time scale in mind, or?
So when we come to the action planning, we have to set an action plan that's setting timescales and, you know, sort of, so we can be realistic about delivery and keep on track and reviewing all of that. But we're looking at, we need, you know, the communities have shared their views and their aspirations, their asks. So we need to build in a kind of feedback progress, you know, into the system, and that will also involve an opportunity to review and, you know, an update. But we've not set, so some of the, you know, Northwest 2045 had set sort of like a, you know, a sort of time frame in terms of that 2045. We've not done that, but we need to look at that in the next phase about kind of building in kind of feedback, review, and setting the timescales for the actions. And just so Phil, I'm just thinking about next steps. It's more sowing a seed, because we won't have time to look at it in great detail. But Phil mentioned what was happening in Easter Ross, because obviously there's an area plan now in each of the areas near enough. So in Easter Ross, because the area plan was being developed at the same time, the partnership kind of reviewing where they were at, that we did it sort of hand in hand. And Easter Ross has gone down the route of 3 working groups of people, place and prosperity. And the plan is that starting point, using the completed plan as a sort of starting point. So I know that Sutherland Partnership has been reviewing the working groups, but it was just, and that's not me sort of suggesting that way, but it was just sharing what, you know, another way of delivering the plan. Recognising that some of the actions in the plan are greater than that focus of inequalities. But I think inequalities always has to be the heart of whatever we're doing, just to make sure nobody's left behind. So
Yes.
just sharing.
Is there anything in that chapter I was missing? No, definitely. Okay. I suppose you see one final question now. So the area place, the plan is there. See, in terms of outcomes, action plans, delivery, so on and so forth, is that then simply down to, and rightly it's down to everyone just to get on and do that, but once the plan's out there, is it a piece that just goes out there and is up there, up to everyone else to pick up on it and kind of look to develop it, or is there any kind of point that the local authority then actually takes any point to see, right, where are we at across Sutherland with any of what we set out to achieve? Is there anything?
I think that the whole point of the next phase is to develop the action plan.
Yeah.
And I see a role certainly for the community development team that have been behind the putting together the area action plan, doing some kind of coordinating and supporting, putting together that action plan. But I don't think it's going to be ours alone. I think that's a piece of work that we're going to need to do with everybody. And so there'll be room for everybody to get involved in that as much as they're able and want to. And, you know, the action plan will have an idea of what is going to be achieved against a priority, but also who's going to do it. And then that gives us an opportunity then to come back at a later date and say, how did we get on? What were the problems? What were the successes? So I think there will be perhaps we'll get to a position where the partnership says maybe it should be a 6-monthly review. Certainly what we've, the commitment I think that we will make to area committee is that we'll be doing annual reports, and that will be an opportunity for us to feedback on where we've got to with it, and perhaps review the actions as well. So that will be a formal and regular milestone. But it might be something that we could discuss more regularly at the community partnership. So I think that's open for discussion. But certainly the idea is it should be something that we can monitor and something that we can celebrate the successes and understand where the difficulties have been.
And one point that I would say is that having the action plan in place is really important. We know the direction of travel, but the action plan has to be also supported by finance. If we have a plan that we can talk about on a regular basis, it's not going to go in. We have to invest in the area as well. We can't just talk about it. For all these things we're going to talk about later on, there's a lot of talking, no investment. And if we don't invest, then the plan will just become about people that we talk about on a regular basis. And that to me is a really important thing.
And I think also the action plan should identify key obstacles. One to my mind is the bodies like Nature Scott. And to my mind, there is at the moment a semi-religious cult of peat worshipping, which is finding obstacles to a number of possible developments in the way. So there has to be a balance. We have to take these bodies like Nature Scott with us and remind them that they have a responsibility for people as well in this place.
Yeah. Right, thanks, Phil. Thanks everyone for that. And it's just something for all of us to pick up on, I suppose, as part of the partnership and development trusts, and everyone involved and has the best intention for Sutherland at heart. So I think it's just for all of us to actually kind of look towards that and actually take that forward. So thanks for that. Right, I have no idea what I'm on the agenda now, so we'll just see it. So, Melissa, I think you're going to give us an intro about Sutherland Alcohol and Drugs Forum. Maybe you can introduce yourself, Melissa, first of all, and just kind of give us a bit of background and then where we're at the moment. Myself, I think just my own profession, I suppose, is something that is massively valuable, I see, because actually we all know the kind of impacts that alcohol and drugs have as a whole from across the board. So, Melissa.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
great. Thank you. So thanks for having me along this morning. And my name's Melissa MacDonald. I work with Anne Gillis in the Whole Family Wellbeing Programme team. I have a Highland-wide role, not a kind of local-based role, that focuses on alcohol and drugs and services for families and children. So as part of the Whole Family Wellbeing Programme, that's how I've got involved in this discussion about a possible forum re-establishing itself in Sutherland. I'm just going to very quickly, just to keep me on track, I'll really just be a couple of moments of your time. So it's early stages in the discussion. Let me just, is that sharing something now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
There we go. Okay. So yeah, why are we discussing this now? So there had been some approaches to myself to HADUP. So I have a partnership post. It's partly working with the Whole Family Wellbeing Programme team, and it's also working with HADUP, the Highland Alcohol and Drug Partnership. So I kind of sit between the two, and they had been approached as well. Their development officer had been approached by some people from the Sutherland area interested in trying to start up a local alcohol and drug forum. Now, you'll need to forgive me if I misquote anything because I wasn't involved at that stage, but because my post is quite a new post. So we've been advised that there was an operational alcohol and drug forum in Sutherland, probably pre-COVID, but it hasn't really been operating since. So there's been some interest, and that actually mirrors the same seems to be happening in other parts of Highland, that they are now interested in having a local alcohol and drug forum. Now, whether that's something that meets as a subgroup of the community partnership, or and Gail Prince has been involved in initial discussions about this, that's really for the partnership to decide. It's not for me to decide, or for anyone else. It's for you guys to decide what you would actually like, if anything. But we have had some interest in starting a forum again. There's been people with lived experience involved. There's been the local drug and alcohol recovery service nurses. They're particularly interested in setting up a forum. And I think, depending on what you want as a partnership, what we don't want to do, and I think it's really relevant to come on to this after previous discussions, is set up something that duplicates other things. So we would have to make sure that if we were looking to kind of revitalise the forum, that we were not just setting up something that's going to create extra burden for people, that the right people would be involved and that they would feed into the right groups from their activities. So why I just thought I'd put a little slide here, a little bit about the whole family wellbeing programme and why we would be interested potentially in setting something like this up. So our work involves looking at services for children and families, my work specifically on alcohol and drugs, and making sure that children and families are at the heart of service design and that they're involved in the decisions that affect them and the services that they receive. We look across Highland and take a holistic...
Well, see, the slideshow seems to have disappeared. I don't know if it's just dropped off. You dropped off for a moment, then the slideshow
Oh, did it?
dropped off altogether. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know if it's...
oh, hold on. Let me try it
hold on.
again. Is it there now?
There's a wee circle going round. Oh, there it is back. Yeah. There we go. Sorry, carry on.
Sorry, I'm actually at police headquarters doing a workshop today, so I've nipped out to do this.
All right, don't blame
It's not my usual IT.
We'll blame BT or something like that, not police headquarters. Carry on, sorry.
So yeah, so we're looking at these things as part of our programme of work, which is a Scottish Government programme that sits within the Highland Community Planning Partnership, and where our posts are hosted in that way. So we look to increase the availability and access of services for children and families, and I appreciate that an alcohol and drug forum would not it wouldn't just be focused on children and families. There would be focus for single adults, and it wouldn't just be family focused, but we can see that it would be a way of making sure that the voice of Sutherland is heard in these discussions as well. So Anne mentioned earlier about the local partnership network group. That would be, to me, a logical thing for the two to feed into each other. We look at trying to take a whole system approach in whole family wellbeing, trying to make sure that there's less duplication, that services are joined up, and also that there's the right workforce development, that there will be the right training and all of these things. And particularly looking at it from a locality lens, is that making sure that Sutherland has access to the same things that other parts of Highland and indeed national programmes have. So that's where we have agreed to kind of, it wouldn't be us it would be Sutherland to chair it or to lead it ultimately, but I've agreed to try and put a bit of support in place to see if it's something they would want to do, to get it back to a certain level. Bear with me. One thing I want to be really clear about though is it might be that you don't want this forum. So we've heard from the people who do, but we are not assuming that we know the outcome of this. So we have a fairly simple survey that we were asking for you to share, and hopefully they could send it out at the end of the meeting and you could share as widely as possible with other people. We also ask that if the answer is no, I don't want the forum, that you complete it so that we can get a picture of people in the area, because we don't want to be imposing things onto them. So the survey, the link is here, and it's fairly straightforward. It's asking questions. Who should be on a forum? If there is a forum, if there's not a forum, why not? Is it because there's something happening already? How often should it meet, and what should it do? So what types of activities would they look at? The the answers that we've given for you to select through are really focused around the service design, involving people with lived experience, and asking who you would want to be having that voice for you. So it's early stages, and this is the first discussion of this kind. So we have considered whether we would make Sutherland a bit of a test to see how to reinvigorate a forum, and just to monitor that, and then it could be something that's done with other community partnership areas as well. Currently, the only areas that have an active forum, and I say active, they could probably, I've spoken to one of the members of the Caithness Forum, and they say it could maybe do with a bit of revision and reinvigorating and maybe looking at it also. It's just Caithness and Skyloch Alshamweister Ross have one, but there isn't any other active forums at the moment. So we're hoping that you can share this survey, and also I've put my email address there if anybody wants to get in touch to discuss any alcohol and drug services, then I'd be very happy to hear from you from Sutherland. So that's it. That's all I've got. Has anybody got questions?
Yeah, Jim?
Yeah, just to fill in some gaps in Melissa's story, I'm actually still for my sins and inadequacies, treasurer for
Yes.
the original Sutherland Drug and Alcohol Forum. There was a digital bank account there with a couple of £100 in it still. Still have to sort out an additional secretary. It worked pretty well, quite well indeed, pre-COVID, under the leadership of Chris Cochran. We had a good relationship, and that she just told me what to do, and I did it, and things worked out quite well. She was very much a leader, and requires a leader to actually make it function properly. Chris has retired and moved on. It has rather lost that leadership. But the moment we've had done is several meetings, and organised by Charlene Nurture, NHS, and it's gradually coming back together again. I think with Charlene kind of leading things, then it will actually have a strong function and do a lot of good in this county. So I'll be quite happy to sort of help continue my role as treasurer and see what we can build up again.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. I think, yeah, one of the things that's in the questionnaire, and it would just take a few moments for people to complete it. One of the things that's in the questionnaire is the types of activity you would want the forum to be involved in, and one of those an obvious one would be applying for funding for things, and that would also include applying to our whole family wellbeing programme, giving you that once the forum is established, it gives you a vehicle to be able to tap into other funds as well that can support the local area. So, and also if it does kind of get reactivated, I know it wasn't officially dormant, but linking it in with the local partnership network group, and obviously if there's any actions that cross over from area place plans as well, then it seems like quite a good time to be making that connection.
Anybody else whether they want to add to that? I was going to ask about a little bit of anybody else first or just.
Denise, thanks here. We used to tap into the Drug and Alcohol Forum many moons ago, and the kind of things we looked for as workers was getting up-to-date training on what was going on in the area. But recently we've been working with Charlene, who has been a godsend. She's absolutely wonderful. So she did a workshop with us workers 9 months ago. We've got her coming in again next week to do a little workshop with our young carers. And we're keeping that connection with her. She's been really good. She speaks in a language that everyone understands, which is really helpful.
Absolutely.
She's been really helpful for us, and I think the kids are going to get on great with her as well, and her team. And then there's connections with Fallen Youth as well, because they're delivering the same kind of work as well.
Yeah.
We're so working. It'd be good if it would team up together.
Absolutely. My post works quite closely with Planet Youth, so we were doing some training recently with them, and I think some of you from your organisation were actually on it as well, and Charlene was there, and I think Charlene had, like you say, has done, she's very keen to put this in place. So, but we just want to make sure that the partnership in general, we can evidence that that's what they've asked for before we go ahead and start doing that, because there could be other ways of doing it. Just as an example, the Community Action Group in Markinch, they don't have a in Markinch and Inverness, they don't have a separate forum, but what they do is they have like themed meetings. So it is possible to do it in different ways. And we just want to make sure that we're not starting something that's going to be difficult to support, because it does need people who are willing to attend the meetings and be involved. Thank you.
Yes. Right, no, sorry. I can't sigh, lean back in this meeting, I'll come to so can I ask Melissa, so obviously just both professionally in our role at the moment and my previous role when I was involved in public protection, and I fully understand where you're going in terms of the whole family wellbeing approach and so on and so forth, because I mean, alcohol and drugs have such a massive impact on every part of society, and particularly the young and coming through and so on and so forth, and then that comes through adulthood and trauma and everything, and then that kind of has impact into society and criminality and equality, the whole lot, effectively. Can I just ask just a very basic question? I think you touched on some of your questions there, but see in terms of the Caithness group, so I suppose just to kind of link again, we've got Steve McLean as harm reduction officer in the police for the Highland area. Now he links, you get the building you're in the moment, he links, the idea that he links together initiatives around about trying to reduce harm reduction. We'll link in with Caithness, alcohol and drug partnership. We'll actually just trying to link them in recently with it. From what you know of the groups that are up and running at the moment, what is it that they, I suppose the reason I'm asking this is just to try and help people in the question of would it be useful in Sutherland? Who goes to these meetings in Caithness? What would they be for? What's the intention of them, I suppose?
Thank you. Yes, I had a conversation recently with you're probably familiar with Nancy Davis from Caithness Family Support. She was the last person that I spoke to regarding the forum, and I have asked for some additional information through partnership. But she advised me that I think basically they've lost a bit of focus recently. There hasn't been a good attendance to the meetings, and I think they really possibly would like to kind of speak to the partnership in Caithness. They haven't really been doing an awful lot at the moment. I think the actions of Caithness Family Support were the main things that were being discussed, but I don't actually have access to the meetings. But Nancy did tell me that the last few meetings there wasn't a great attendance. I think where Sutherland is different, and it's not to try and sway, or I think we can support in that initial getting the right people around the table, and that's maybe something that needs looked at again, especially with different plans coming to life and area place plans, and the HADUP are having a new, are about to publish their new strategy as well. I've got a meeting with Steve McLean in the next fortnight, I think. So we're just trying to tie up those pieces a little bit better and make sure that when there is things happening like new funding, that they will be able, that the local community will be able to tap into that, and that they will have a voice as well, because we do know that, despite some people's opinion of the area, there are serious issues with alcohol and drugs in every area in Highland, and Sutherland isn't an exception, sadly.
I suppose can you send the link? I don't know if you're able to send us the link, Melissa, by email to.
Yes, I will do. Yeah.
The SCP email, and then we can get that shared widely from
that would
there.
be great.
That's okay. We'll do that.
Yeah, I'll pop it in the chat. For some reason, it's not
perfect.
copying now. I'll stop sharing my screen though.
No, that's fine. And
Okay.
if you would actually put that in the chat and then share it with by email, then we'll spread that out widely.
That would be
Melissa.
super.
And I suppose then it would be, I mean, I think it goes without saying, and I think probably, I don't speak for everybody, but I suspect that everyone will think the same thing. It's a good thing on the whole. I suppose it's just a question, like Melissa, you're saying there, about how is it delivered and how is it interaction with Sutherland. Does it have to be a standalone meeting?
Yeah.
It's already happened in certain meetings already, just so on and so forth. But it goes to the heart of everything we're talking about in terms of inequalities and everything. So I'll probably kind of welcome you back again, Melissa, in the future. Just because I think it's important I think it's important for Sutherland that the answers to some of the questions you've asked there are given at some point, so that we can make sure that it is, because Wherever there's inequality, there's prosperity as well for that matter, but whenever the society is going to be alcohol and drugs issues, and then there's going to be family issues off the back of that, and human issues that kind of spread from there. So, thanks, Melissa. Really.
No, thank you very much. And I'd be very happy to come back. And that would be just to say the next steps would be to gather the information and then to kind of return to yourselves and take it from there. But I would encourage anybody that's got interest in that area to get in touch with me, because it's something that I'm doing across Ireland anyway. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Melissa. Thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is actually, I'll just give a quick update myself. Anna, if you want, I'm going to maybe come to you just for Sutherland Cares and Whole Family Wellbeing, because you have no warning, so it's a bit of hand over, but I just want a quick discussion around about that. But so I'm just going to get a quick update around about Sutherland Partnership, the goals of the subgroups, and where we're at. So effectively set up steering group now. The steering group's met 2 or 3 times effectively now, and for me it is early, and I fully accept that. So I'm not going to start saying there was a moment left fireworks and saying the things, but for me, certainly as a chair of the partnership, I have immediately found the ability to pull levers, which I didn't previously have. I wasn't the fact that the ability to direct things wasn't there. It was just a bit more, and I'm just, well, maybe myself here when I say this as a person, as a leader, I found it a bit difficult to work out how to have the right people around a forum to discuss things, to then discuss where we were at, how we deliver things, how we overcome barriers, what we need to do, frankly. And I immediately found that having had even 2 or 3 meetings of the steering group, instantly the right people are there. We can bring people into the group. We can make sure that there is leadership there. There's accountability there for the core partners and the others. I say the core partners clearly, and I'm talking myself more than anything else there, that because what is very clear about Sutherland as a whole is that actually out with the core partners, and this is, I don't mean this about police or fire or local authority or anyone when I say this, NHS, anyone, but at times, in spite of the core partners, the Sutherland Partnership has continued to thrive, if I'm being bluntly honest. And that's because of the clearly very good people that are in this room and on teams and a wider community that actually have enabled that to happen. I feel the steering group allows and ensures that the core partners are there and continually there. I see that for myself, I see that for all of us. So we've got the steering group up and running now. We're effectively going through a process quickly of having discussions around each of the subgroups and where they're at and so on and so forth. We've just last month, and we'll have another discussion in 2 weeks' time when we meet again around about Sutherland Cares, and then we're going to move on to employability and then the fuel groups, the fuel and food poverty groups thereafter, and just to make sure that there's clarity there around about what's happening, where we are, what we need to do, and so on and so forth. That then feeds into a wee bit about the area place plan, what we're talking about, and all these bits and pieces of work. And frankly speaking, it makes sure that where people have been, or have been, some people probably have been, some people have been at risk of it, people can individually talk to that, but where there's been occasions where people have felt isolated in chair roles or in subgroups or whatever it may be, that shouldn't be the case in the future, because the steering group has a responsibility to actually support that work, direct the work where it needs to be directed, and there should never be a point in the future where a chair feels, actually, I don't know where I should go with this, where I shouldn't go with this. There is, as Richard has touched on, and I think Jim touched on as well, there's always going to be the reality and finance and the ability to deliver is going to be the critical moment of reality, I suppose, and where the desire to achieve something and the reality of how you deliver it strikes reality. That's the crux of things, and I know that. But so that's where we're at in terms of steering group. So the Sutherland Cares Group, we focused on the Sutherland Cares Group right at the outset, primarily because one of the last workshops we had, we were talking about the whole family wellbeing programme and the ability, hopefully, for it to deliver real meaningful work for Sutherland as a whole. And I can't remember who was talking to, somebody I talked to recently, just some discussions I had. And one of the things they mentioned to me, and I kind of struck a chord with me, was wherever we're able to do anything, small things, big things, whatever it may be, that actually somebody on the ground feels that's success, and that's the bottom line. That's and because we can talk about what we haven't achieved at times, but at least if we're achieving small things that make a difference, then hopefully it does help. So we focus on Sutherland Cares particularly because we hoped that would help, and we're just at a point where we've had meetings, and myself, Jennifer, Fiona, others have had meetings around about Sutherland Cares effectively being the delivery body subgroup of whole family wellbeing programme. I don't know, Fiona, and I don't know if you want to just say a couple of minutes just about what that is, what we hope to where we're at with it, just to give a bit of flavour.
Yeah, do you want me to go? Do you want to go first?
I'll maybe do a little bit of
bit of
background.
context.
Yeah.
In fairness to Fiona and Anne, by the way, they've had no notice of this, so say whatever you want, whatever you don't, but yeah.
So Sutherland Cares was the emotional and wellbeing thematic group of the partnership, and it kind of developed to become Sutherland Cares with a broader remit to sort of support anything that helped deliver a caring service in Sutherland. So it could be families, it could be mental health, it could be environmental action. It was quite a broad remit, and we delivered some actions, but it had kind of come to a pause when we weren't really sure what direction we were going in. Then the whole family team came on the scene, and it seems like a good opportunity to move towards delivering services for the whole family, because in many ways, the whole family, supporting the whole family covers many of what Sutherland Cares covers anyway. So I met with Anne, and she showed me some of the work that they've done in other localities, and it seemed like a really good way forward for Sutherland Cares because of the action plan that they've been able to pull together by working in the communities across Highland. It will give us a lot of deliverable outcomes, I feel. So
Brilliant, yeah, thank you. I don't know how much everybody knows, so I apologise if you've heard this many times. So we've got a locality coordinator in each of the 9 CP areas. Hayley's now moved to Ross because we had a backfill post there. So I'm covering, it was logical because I was already covering Caithness, and we thought there's so many services that run across both areas. So hence I inherited Sutherland. So what we've got basically is 100k to spend. It's ring fenced, so there's no time to it. So 100k to spend in each area, which is about improving services or developing new services or expanding things that are working really well in Sutherland. It's not about us dictating to you, it's about working with anybody, practitioners who work with children and young people and families, getting them around the table. So we're setting up a local partnership network group, and I think it's 25th. So 25th of this month. So we've got about 17 people signed up already from various different organisations, third sector, statutory services, NHS, etc. So what we'll do at that session is we'll hopefully try and map all the services that we know about collectively that are happening, which also helps identify gaps. Then we'll look at some of the priorities based on the people in the room who are actually working in the field with children, young people and families. We want them to bring the family voice into that room, and then we will set some priorities for Sutherland, and then collectively we'll decide how this fund is distributed. So we might do 3 lots of 33,000, for example, or we might want to do a bigger pot, and then we'll choose they can self-elect to be the partners around the table who will be collaboratively delivering some of these services. So I think there's lots of scope. There's lots of stuff going on in the background, like obviously Melissa said, but there's lots of work around ASN as well, about more, came up on the slides from Phil, about more outdoor type activities for children and young people, especially with additional support needs as well. That was one of the big ones, childcare, that's come up as well. Yeah, stuff that we can't actually help with, so pot of fun, but we would work with parents. So transport's obviously a massive issue, getting people to. We don't know what's going to come up. Every place is different. Obviously, there's common themes. We've got some results already from Caithness and Mid-Ross. So it'd be good just to compare. There's quite a lot of themes that are running through. So it's just to reassure everybody, the money's there just for this area. It's not getting taken anywhere else, and we will spend it when we get a plan in place. And I know, as I say, we've got Lynn Bowmaster, which is your equivalent, isn't she, Mid-Ross? So she just said about some of the themes or recommendations from the Yeah, there's, and I'm not saying they match directly, but there's certainly some of the strands, which in effect is good because it's actually putting a little bit of funding back towards the area place planners in it, which doesn't come with fun. So that's where we're at just now, and everybody's welcome if, and I think you'll sign up, thankfully. But if there's anybody else who feels they want to be part of that, it's an open door.
Absolutely. Just email, if you email Scott, if you would like to invite at the community partnership, pass that to me and we can get.
Yeah, did you send, I can send the invite on to Scott as well?
Yeah.
To share that with wider.
In-person meeting in Boner Bridge.
That's correct. And anybody else can join by Teams if they can't. It'd be good to have an in-person discussion. That's me soon. Brilliant, thank you.
Jim, were you able to?
No, yeah. Most important, yeah.
In the community hall.
How did it again?
It's 20. Yeah, like a June 10 to 1 o'clock.
Good.
With refreshments. But not much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Fiona. I suppose then that's part of what I wanted to just to kind of talk about Sutherland Cares there. That quite clearly evidences the actual what we can do to support actually what's happening in Sutherland. There's an ability there to actually do things. There's a fund there to make it happen. We have the right people here. So I suppose my plea, I suppose, is that to everyone in the meeting here today, teams or in the room, and others who maybe not be here that people know about, the best way we can actually use Anne and Fiona's efforts is to actually have the right people in the room to support the work and to make it happen. That's the bottom line. So it's an appeal there. Melissa, you want to?
Hi, sorry, this is not my area particularly, but it was just a question that I wanted to ask. It's the name of the group, and it's not the most important thing, but I do know that there was some confusion with other areas and other localities around the previous work of the, for example, Sutherland Cares and then the whole family wellbeing programme, and just to ask whether that was something that was being considered. So whether I know the name might not seem the most important thing, but it had caused some confusion between people understanding between the two things and whether you had made a decision to go with that name or not.
We're not quite there yet, Melissa. That'll be
Okay.
discussed. It's on the agenda for the.
Oh, is it? Oh,
I think
you.
what Melissa's explained, give a bit more context. So we had Highland Cares, didn't we? And I think KFS Cares is cares from that. And it's just draw a line under that because we've got quite a bit of pushback around. You've taken our funding and we've been promised money, and we are completely separate. Program, and we started long after that program finished. So
we're Scottish government funded.
Yes, we are Scottish government funded. So that's why
Thank you.
We've got a bit of, as Fiona's heard as well. And it's got quite a lot of toothache. Certainly when we first started. Okay.
No,
thank
you. Yeah, I think the key thing, I suppose, about the Sutherland Cares and what falls out was we felt the right people would be there to support the work, and so how that works is fine, be obvious. But okay, talking on.
Yeah, and it's the £100,000, which is great, and that's enables the group to almost like commission work or strategically direct for that. But there's also funding smaller pots, isn't there? 10K that people just applying for their own projects.
Absolutely. So we've got an element 1, so that's element 2 funding, the bigger pots. So we've got element 1 funding, which is small grants up to 10K. So if people wanted to just test small concepts, so there's been some great stuff with like KFS Clicks about a young carers transitions program out when you reach a certain age. Who's supporting them once you reach age 18. Things around childcare, like ad hoc childcare with homestay and things. So anybody can apply for that. It's through third sector. Sorry, I should say it's through third sector, but statutory services might be advising. That's although we did a pilot of that just at the end of last year. That's open now, but it'll be fed through the local partnership network groups rather than being just lots of applications coming in. It'll be people approaching us through the local partnership network group. So yes, I'd like to had a meeting with Sutherland Adventure. Yes, and then they were talking about doing some further work with you. So we're already there. We're already doing some further work around. Brilliant. But I can keep you updated about that.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I suppose the message ultimately is just for people who are, so the ability there to do things. If people don't come to the meeting who actually feel actually that works for, then they miss it. So get to the meetings. Thanks. And I suppose just the other subgroups there, just I'm not going to go through them individually at the moment, just they will go through that steering group effectively bit by bit. We're going to focus, we'll get a quick catch up with the Sutherland Cares one at the meeting in 2 weeks' time, and then we'll talk about employability subgroups as well, which actually a lot of the work's happening through LEP, and to some extent we'll discuss that, and we'll just keep feeding back to you. But it's there's a board there, it was 8, 9, 10 people each of us or something like that, so it's a broad spectrum across partnership, and it means that there's joint decision making taking place there with the right people there to try and hopefully push things. So that's the updates around about that. So I'll just come to item 6 there now. So just around about the network group updates. So we'll really start off with SRI, which I don't know if you want to just touch on where you're at, what any kind of messaging you want to give to us around about.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Yeah, the SRI is moving very slowly, but it is moving. I've been personally meeting, going to the Northwest 45 meetings, and I've also made the scan as well, and trying to network as much as I can, so that we could spread what we're trying to do and understanding what other groups are trying to do as well. So there's a sharing of information going across the county. Very keen to look at the county as a whole again, and get away from the siloed kind of areas, so everybody can benefit from what's being done. And there's always the learning from everybody else. But I think that's really important, and what can be applied from 2045 into Central Sutherland and East Sutherland and everything else. So I say we don't reinvent the wheel all the time. So very keen to promote that. Also very keen to, and looks like Trudy's on the call today, so very keen to work with the Caithness Chamber of Commerce and see what we can do to network and actually promote the County of Sutherland and please to invest, move to LEV. And I think there's a new group, I think Trudy, you'll get it right, is within it, or David as well, the LEV Sutherland, LEV North, that's it, yes. So that very keen to expand that work as well in Sutherland.
Do you want me just to comment on that, or?
Yeah, please do.
Yes, thank you. So yes, we're very keen to meet up and obviously discuss what we can do. We've had a bit of transition, as you might know. We've taken Venture North into the chamber, and we've got a talent attraction program, as you rightly said, called Live North. So these are brands of the chamber, but we have dedicated teams that are working on that. I've also on the call got my new deputy, Donna Chambers, who is heading up that. So what we're looking at is a holistic destination strategy for the North Highlands. So basically Caithness and Sutherland, which will come under those two brands of Venture North and Live North. So Venture North is all about obviously visiting the area, and Live North is about actually living. So the two are going to work together, because quite often it's people that are visiting that then quite often want to relocate. So that's what we're involved in at the moment. So be keen to obviously catch up with yourselves and discuss that in more detail. And obviously with our work with the chamber as well, we are covering the North Highlands. We are looking at a possible name change to reflect that, but obviously I have to go out to the members to actually get that approved. So I don't actually want that minuted, if that's okay at this moment in time. But it is something that we are looking at, because obviously we're already working across the North Highlands with certain things. We have members in the North Highlands in Sutherland as well. And we also manage the Developing the Young Workforce North Highland group as well. So it's just about marrying that up. So as I say, apologies that we've not been on the calls before. It's been a bit hectic. And obviously taking in Venture North, we lost the manager that was doing that, Kathy Earnshaw, I think, who attended some of the meetings. So she's gone on to go travelling. But obviously we've recruited Donna to obviously bolster our team. So I'll leave it at that, if that's okay.
Thanks, Judy. I think it's good that if we can work together to promote Sutherland. I mean, it's what you've done with Keepness is fantastic. Keepness is really on the map in terms of so many different ways, commercially and every other way. I think we want to try and replicate that in Sutherland. So we want to make Sutherland a place to move to invest in, and encourage the growth that we all want to see, the reversal of depopulation, and not just the reversal of depopulation, but also, as Phil touched on our own, the change in the demographic as well. So we need to have people of a working age living and working in the county, which is really, really important and want the county to thrive. And Sutherland got so much to offer, it really has, and across the whole country, there are various things that would attract people. And why wouldn't you want to move to Sutherland? There are so many opportunities for people to come here. And East Coast Sutherland, we've got the access to the Green Freeport. It's not as comprehensive as I thought it was going to be, because we thought there were going to be the tax benefits living for Goldsby and Brora as well. But that seems to have been removed from the original plan. But we're still within an easy access to the Comedy Firth, so there is room for people to live here and still commute back and forth as we did back in the heydays of NIG, back in the 70s. So I think we've got opportunities there. I'm very keen for Sutherland's initiative to work on that. What we've done recently with the transport side of things, we now have 4 cars working across the county to get people to access to services, which is fantastic. We've got application in for additional 3. And that made it more or less covered the county with what we're trying to do. The transport was a bit slow to get moving. We had some issues. We've got over those now, and all the cars are working well across the county, getting people to where they need to be. So that I think we can draw a line under the transport side of things initially, but also work with developing groups to make sure that everybody has access to where they need to be. I think we need to now move on, start looking at things like housing, and all the priorities of partnership. I think this was actually has been endorsed by the partnership to be actually delivering services. That's what we need to be looking for funding and buying things for housing, for childcare, for all things that actually make a difference and to help to reduce poverty issues and again help the county to grow. So that's where we are at the moment.
Thanks, Richard. Maybe anything you want to ask Richard or Trudy or Donna?
I just add as well that what we've been doing with the help of David and Scott and Miranda, their support has been fantastic. And it's otherwise it's been ourselves volunteers to try to get against the but having that additional administrative support has been really, really good.
Yeah, sure. And I think I suppose the key message, I suppose, fundamentally is that actually, so from the work that you've initially done, Richard, then on to David and Scott, Miranda and other, it needs people to get behind it effectively to actually allow it to then kind of take on to the next level and then evolve beyond the initial idea and beyond the initial people. I think it's probably fair to say, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean beyond the initial people, but alongside the initial people.
Well, we are just, we've been going for a couple of years. We just finished our first full year as a company with guarantee. Our council will be done and we're going to have an AGM very shortly. At that point, we'll be looking for directors from representatives from across the county on board with us. Obviously, very keen for members of the partnership to be involved in that.
Yeah.
Can I start, Sean? Just rather to talk about this, I just had a couple of communications, obviously explaining what it's all about and what we're looking for. We're looking to encourage as many people as possible to join that. So it's free to join that, and obviously come the AGM, we'll be looking for people to step forward and become directors. So if you haven't joined, then please do so.
I think we're a membership-driven organisation. That's our whole ethos, and we could book a potential of, I think, 13,000 members from Sutherland if everybody joins. We haven't got there yet.
Well, they can say, yeah, there's a
number of people, but and then even beyond Sutherland, the associate members. So we're keen to get as many people involved as possible. It costs nothing. There's no negative impact for anybody. It does allow people to actually participate in what we're trying to achieve and get that message out there. So that Sutherland is effectively open for business, and I think that's, to me, it's the message will be out there.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Okay. Go on now, Northwest 2045.
Just.
I'll put tag team together.
Okay.
So Northwest 2045, I'm doing this myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to Uganda. I'm the Curious Societal Repopulation Coordinator for Northwest Sutherland and Clare. So I'm putting the longest time on the road. And the focus of my work is to work with communities in the Northwest to identify land where houses can be built and getting houses on the ground. So if I just give an update for the Northwest 2045, but my area covers the same area as the Northwest 2045, which is quite all the way around to Betty Hill. And Joe Peach, who's the lead for Northwest 2045, he's been doing really good work on researching the issues facing Northwest 2045. He produced a bit of research from Beaver Economics, which brought that information together as well. The report brings together the ideas in terms of what is the cycle of depopulation, and it comes out as a call to action. The report will be published on the 16th of June, and you're very welcome to request that. So if you email joe.peach@northwest2045.scot, he will provide you with a report, a copy of the report, and also they're having a meeting on the 18th to discuss the report. So that will be there. The other work that Joe has been doing is he's been bringing together representatives from all the 7 community councils. So now that representation is there, and so it's strengthening the focus of the group. Then we move into childcare. There's been money from the Scottish Government from the Repopulation Action Plan to focus on childcare. One of the key issues in the Northwest was Durness was going to had previously closed the ELC and had agreed to reopen the ELC. However, the problem has been to recruit somebody to run it. We've been through 4 iterations of the recruitment process. So there was a community meeting last week to work out how to work with the parents and the community to broaden how that can be done. So fingers crossed that will come together. Also, there's a subsidized childminder pilot is readied. So one of the key issues for the childminders issues is that there's the legislation for care what can be done. So we put Michelle Hardy working to put together a pilot for that to go forward. Also 2045 also with Mary Todd went to meet with Dawn Innes, the Minister for Children, Young People and Promise. So they met with her and she did recognise that the problem is with the legislation. They are working on it, but that's very slow and costly. Fingers crossed that it will happen before we lose all the people in Sutherland. And she's also looking to come do a visit in Sutherland, which would be great. Again, there's my work with the repopulation. So we have 3 projects at the moment that have a tender looking at houses, units from for assets in Handaplace in Scourie and up in Durness. That would give opportunity for about 63 maximum perceived people. We've also got another project, Kinwerby, which would be another 12 units, but that's in the process. And I've also been working with the local police plans for the 7 areas, community council areas. Was also working on the key worker funds, which is the Scottish Government pushing at the moment to purchase houses for key workers. So we're looking, so the housing development manager, looking to have partnerships with key employers such as NHS and such as the fish farms to see where we can help that issue. Did I miss anything? Is that right?
Definitely not.
Thank you.
That's brilliant, please, thank you. Anything anybody wants to ask? Yes, see weird at times, I don't want to ask too many questions, a few questions I can probably ask. See the childminder pilot, the boy you mentioned, what is that? How's that working? Well,
It was looking to, because of the problem with the nurseries closing
Yeah.
down, to look and see if there could be a childminder who could be supported
Yeah.
to fill in that gap.
Yeah.
And to see if they can support the Highland Council to make that happen.
Yeah.
So trying to find the idea to do it. The problem I think with the childminders is you have to do it from home.
Yeah.
And the problem is to help your own kids,
Okay.
which is one of the key issues. So part of looking at the pilot is to try and make something that
Everything
can
with
work.
like another bathroom put in your house, don't you,
Right.
as well? It's like, oh, there's so many barriers to it.
And there's there are so many public buildings which you could use if it was allowed, but and so that's something that
Is the pilot just seeking to overcome barriers, actually, just what you, it's like an intention thing?
the pilot would be to get somebody in place
Yeah.
to make sure that it works.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the problems is if you don't have enough kids in a community,
Yeah.
you're not going to get childminder
Yeah.
to work. So back, I know in Lochimber, there's somebody who leaves with their kids and suddenly the childminder has to leave
Yeah.
because you just can't do it otherwise. So it's to give the support
Yeah.
to make it that work.
No, it's interesting, yeah, I mean, it just tells us a lot of problems that we're kind of probably all aware of, it's actually the challenge at the time. And the housing, see, you mentioned the units, the new units that you're working towards, is that, is that, I was going to say that's straightforward, it won't be straightforward, I doubt it. You know, in terms of land issues and all that, is that something that?
The area that we got the most, sorry, the area that we work with at the moment, this land of the Highland Council.
Yeah.
So they've been agitated it for, we've been agitated for,
Okay.
could these.
Yes, relative.
After 3 years, it's finally getting covered. Plus we get spade in the ground.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. No, thanks for that. Boy, that's really good. But yeah, it just shows you the work that, again, work that a lot of people are doing. There's a lot of barriers in place to actually try and come sometimes. Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, the housing units, Communities Housing Trust, I presume are behind most of them. In the ones we're actually doing, they're behind the store one.
Yeah.
But the one we're doing in Hander and the one we're doing up in Durness, with the district council. So
Yeah.
the Community Housing Trust, there's about 11 projects around the northwest. The others done by communities, and Community Housing Trust are the ones who are in that coordination and support.
I'm just concerned because I don't think they're being as fully funded as they should be at the moment, and that's causing delays in some projects that we would like to see go forward.
Okay. That's right.
Can I just
Sorry.
mention as well on the back of childcare, which they already know, I'm maybe preaching to converses. I know Fiona Webster from Employability was doing a I was that she was the Scottish Childminder Association last year. I think that's on the cards again to do another round of it, because you know they have very low numbers. But also just to let you know as well, Homestar Caithness, Homestar East Highland will be offering a brand-wide service eventually. They're doing it in phases. And I know it's not childcare directly, but they're doing a lot of support work for families around that. So I will find out more and I'll bring it to the next meeting. So that'll be something to maybe link in with yourself as well.
Yeah.
I think Caithness will be covering the northwest and east Highland Plus. That will be doing southeast.
Yeah.
That's the link between the two of them. Yeah, that'll be just to keep you in the loop.
Okay, thanks, Boy, for that. Thanks for you do what you're doing. Scan, Angela. Yes.
Good morning. Hello, everybody. Apologies for not being in the room today, and likewise Karina too, who's the chair of the SCAN group. She's out of the county today. Not much of an update. I think we've done a written update to be circulated with the notes, but just a couple of points to make. That last meeting was on the 21st of May. Got another one scheduled for the 24th of June, and we've got somebody coming along from DTAS, Development Trust Association Scotland, just to remind participants of the support they can offer. And I think we're planning an in-person event in September, not got any details, not got a particular theme yet, but the group will be helping us shape that, maybe be able to move the invites out to Caithness as well, with a few speakers and a bit of sort of a whole day event, so we can network and get a little more out of our group. So that's all I've got to say for Scan. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Does anybody want to ask Angela, bring anything up? No? Yeah, I think in general, my understanding, all the updates are, it works well anyway, Angela, and, you know, so it's a good meeting, actually, it's a good purpose too, so. No, thanks for that. And
Thank you.
bringing a nice background into the meeting. So it's good to see you, thanks. So the next one is Gail. I think so. Gail's put in apologies for an update around the community plan partnership island. Community plan got one comprehensive update. Okay, so I'll share that. Yeah, so that's fine. So we'll get that update sent out. Gail's got the community plan partnership board today, so that's why she's put in apologies. So yeah, we'll get that circulated. Actually looked at that earlier, not time to pass through. It's about 4 or 5 pages. It's got to I had to give up. So we'll get that sent out by email after this. Get the update. Project support team funding update. David.
Not much to say actually since the last meeting. You know, as I reinforced at the last meeting, the funding is for the SCP and Curiosity has been delivering it. I had a meeting with Chloe Murray from the Regeneration Funds, but it's a little bit weird because she's saying, well, what do you guys want to do? I'm saying, well, it's the SCP. It's got to make a request that we do it. You know, that's a thing. But we've put forward what the costs would be for more officers. At the moment, we don't have officer support in SCP. So this agenda item probably should come off until we have. Scott's been retained through SRI money. So, and Richard sees the value in Scott continuing to do some light touch work, and Richard's doing a fantastic job. But Scott's only got a couple of months left, which the worst thing I see is the effect on the people that build this has. It's an interesting point. Jim's mentioned a few times. We've heard about the HAPS having no funding. We've heard about CHD having no funding. We've heard about the SCP having no funding. We've heard about the Developer Trust having no funding. But there's new initiatives coming out, hundreds of thousands of pounds. There's something wrong with old initiatives are being cast by the wayside. New initiatives are coming out. But at the moment, there is no support. And beyond a couple of months, unless something materialises out fresh air, there will be no staff to support this. So it will be the partners driving the SCP forward.
So I suppose the only thing I'm trying to add to that, and you're right. We have had discussions. I've kind of had a few discussions with David and others around about where we're at with funding, and that's actually why I touched, I think, at the beginning. I can't remember when I mentioned before, but we're talking about the lack of funding to actually deliver things. It's actually a kind of a wider issue that kind of goes back to probably higher level national issues. But I've kind of sought a bit of reassurance that we're not missing the boat in terms of actually if there's areas of funding that we should have been going for, and certainly everything I've been led to believe to this point is that we haven't. The CRF funding is the attended hope, I suppose, and not last time it's going to be late summer or summertime.
September.
Yeah. Okay.
That's one of the issues here is the effect on the people, because what we've done since 2017 as a trust is employed people, let them go, have to start up a new team, employ other people, let them go, have to start up a new team. It's not fair on the people, it's not fair. And the amount of interviews I've had to do for SCP jobs is unbelievable. We've employed really, really good, high quality staff, but we've not treated them well through no fault of their own. So September to me is outrageous because that's when the next Sutherland committee meets. If it's important, bring a committee meeting forward, an emergency committee meeting, because if not, we'll lose good stuff again. You know, you can't expect Scott to sit there twiddling his thumbs. He's got a lifestyle to support. You know, but that's the reality. You can't just think that people are out of the good of their heart, just sit there hoping that something's going to come along. You know, and as I say to Scott every time I see him, if you see something, I'll help you get it, because it's his life going forward. So, but the reality is, I have no idea. It doesn't look like from my discussion with Chloe that maybe the regeneration fund will be an open rent. So I'm still a little bit, but as I say, it does not have to be delivered by QSCT. It could be delivered as easily by VGS or by SRI or anybody else if they chose to do it.
So I suppose so we've got 2 weeks time. So we've got a meeting or what it is a workshop. Ultimately, it's only 3 hours. It's deliberately short. The invites are out now. We've kind of got the attendees, and the sole intention there is to prepare for the CRF funding. So we have hope try to actually get ourselves in a position, and the intention is there that we will come up with key objectives effectively that will then lead to a funding application for the CRF fund. I do take what you're saying, David, about the time.
Well, the other thing is you have to hope that there's an organisation there that's got core funding to be able to deliver SCP staff and support SCP staff and oversee them and manage them.
Yeah.
That's one of the other issues. So when I was speaking to Chloe, I'm saying, I'm going to need to make an application to you as well. So, and that's my priority. So, you know, it goes back to this, the start of the conversation, and Jim bringing things under. It's true. If you don't have organisations, I mean, there's another, if you don't have that core funding, you can't then just say, oh, we'll do SCP stuff, because there's no management fees come in for it. There's no anything. There's no cream comes off it that allows you to then top up your core funding, allowing you to survive. It's just project funding, and that's the way that's the way it's developed. So, I think there's a real crisis in the third sector, a massive crisis in the third sector, and we're going to lose a lot of organisations in the coming months and years. A lot of organisations have delivered stuff because the funding is just not there. It's a reality of.
And the cuts as well that are going on for the ones that are still there, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we've just lost our office manager because she's moved away. We can't replace her. So, you know, that's the reality of things. It's getting dire. So it's nice to do other projects on top of it if you can. And I think we have delivered really strongly in the 8 years that we've been doing it. I think we've contributed as a trust to this partnership really strongly. But whether we'll be able to continue to do that, I don't know.
I think, so, I mean, you said, I'm right, David, but I think to try and give some hope, I suppose, it's my hope anyway, is that and that's the intention behind the meeting in 2 weeks' time. We're going to come together, we're going to get ourselves in a position ready to offer the CRF funding. What comes of that? I mean, David, you're right then about further monies on top of that. So, and there'll be other people looking for that funding as well. This isn't just going to be a piece of actually just a drop down and give them potential £10,000. So that's where we're at. Thank you to David and Slot and to Miranda previously, and to everyone else who continues to help.
Fiona was yes,
and yeah, when you're right about people being treated, I think the key thing is, I suppose, everyone is very grateful for what people do. It was clearly never intended to actually have that impact. People who just been working within the boundaries of where we are, I suppose.
I think the biggest issue is that Sutherland's partnership has thrived because we've had that support from QSCT. Other partnerships happened. I think that our success is in no small measure due to that. And I think that whatever we can do to retain that services, we need to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's wholly the intention, I suppose, to a board, is to try and actually keep that going solidly.
Yeah. Two of our former SCP officers get married at the Shin Falls at Saturday, and they made me the minister.
Anyway, you paid for it, I suppose. That's the only thing. Right, thanks, Mr. Wheeler. So, I think we do this next time to actually highlight the big top and then philosophy at the top.
Highlight there's Trish has put an apology.
Oh, yes, okay, no worries. And thank you. So is Vicky here? No.
Trish probably shouldn't be down as the High Life lead anymore, because Trish, Adult Learning and Youth Work, are now back part of education within Highland Council, so she wouldn't be representing High Life anymore.
Okay, so this is another.
Leave that with me and I'll email High Life. So there isn't another High Life rep, is there on?
Not on legal.
Okay.
It was Fiona until she moved to Inverness Castle. We've not really had a proper replacement.
Okay, so there's no, and so we can plan to do that, that's fine. So we'll just Quickly on to number 7 then, so it's actually into my time actually. So any other company business, anybody else want to come in with anything to have a chance to speak about? I suppose then the next day, the next meeting's again, 5th September, that will be hybrid again. I'm open to correction, but actually I feel like today's quite good to actually have people back in the room and the ability to have teams again as well. So I think it's a bit good to keep that going. So we'll do that again in 3 months' time. So, and beyond that, I think it's just a thanks from me for everyone. And as I keep saying, there's things that are happening, notwithstanding the challenges, there's things that are happening only because of yourselves and the work that we all do. So thank you, and we'll see you again in 3 months' time. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm Angeles 3.
I don't know enough of finer details. And I was Fiona 1.
I was Angeles 1 and then they, no, it didn't bring it. We changed the job.
Talked about, yes, I can use it.